Hi there, Esther Berry with Esther School and Esther's Ministries. I'm so excited to be here today. We've been talking about the voice of God and discerning His voice and hearing other voices that we do not need to obey or listen to, but we want to obey God's voice. That is a key. Obedience is better than sacrifice. And that's another word that I had to say over and over again to myself, because a lot of times we have been programmed to make sacrifices all the time, and God is saying, I want your obedience. Now He will speak to you in your heart, but He'll also speak outside of you. You'll hear His voice from the outside. And how did that, in the Bible, Moses at the burning bush, remember Moses felt led to go up to the mountain, and when he went up to the mountain, he heard the voice of the Lord from a burning bush. The bush was burning, but yet it wasn't disintegrating. It was a supernatural phenomena that Moses was experiencing, and God said, take off your shoes, Moses, because you're on holy ground. And he heard the voice of God. He heard it audibly. And I can tell you, you can hear God's voice audibly. Now, I've only heard His voice 2-3 times in my life. And I know other people who also have heard His voice audibly. But He also, He speaks again to you and confirms in your heart. I was thinking about Samson. Samson was brought to help Israel get out of war, because the Philistines were at war with Samson. And did he obey God's voice? Well, he let a woman speak to him, didn't he? He was deceived by the voice of another. But in the end, God restored Samson's health, strength, and when he died, he brought many people with him. Solomon was also a great king, the wisest king of all. And God spoke to him and said, this is my prayer for you, Solomon, that you will be the wisest man on the earth. And if you will follow and obey me, I have great plans for you in your kingdom. David also heard the voice of the Lord and wrote Psalms. Look at the beautiful Psalms that David wrote. Was he a perfect man? No. He murdered. He was an adulteress, but yet he had a heart after God. How could that be? Well, because he knew God had forgiven him of his sins. He knew he was forgiven. I love Jonah. Jonah was, I sometimes felt like I would be Jonah, because Jonah was told to go into a city and tell them that they were in sin, and he was to minister to that city, and he said, no, God, I'm not going there. They're not going to hear me. And he ran to a tree. He ran under a tree and hid, and then ended up in a whale. Come on, you want to end up in a whale for 3 days? I've never heard of that in this day and age, but I'm sure it happens, because if it happens in the Bible, I've got great news to tell you. It's real and it's true, and it can happen. Even today it can happen. I was telling my little grandson today about the man in the, there was a man in Newport Richie, which is, I'm here in Florida, and he was in his bed sleeping, and the ground opened up and swallowed him. And they call it a sinkhole here in Florida. And they say there's many sinkholes in Florida, and they don't even know where they're all at. But that man got swallowed up, and he died in that sinkhole. Well, to me, that's a natural phenomena that God, and it's in the Bible. There's in the camp, remember? The Old Testament, I think it was Achan that had done wrong. I don't remember what his sin was, because the sin isn't really important. It's the forgiveness of sin that's important to you. Forgiving and accepting, yes, I've done this, I'm wrong, I'm sorry. And he never did it, and the ground opened up and swallowed him and his whole family. You know, so when it started happening here in Florida, I thought, oh my goodness, the Bible's coming alive today. We're getting sinkholes. And then I was thinking about Esther. You know, Esther was given a commandment to fast and pray, and I'm sure she heard the voice of God telling her, Esther, you know, if you don't do this. Now her cousin Mordecai, or her uncle Mordecai, was the one who had spoken to her and said, Esther, if you don't do this, your whole nation can perish. But she heard the voice of God speak through her uncle, and she obeyed. So it's very important. And sometimes you'll hear his voice in your heart and you won't obey because you think that's too crazy or too absurd, or that doesn't, no, they don't really need to hear that. But I'm telling you, but God, don't let that happen too often, because then he'll be quiet, and you don't want the Holy Spirit quiet in your life. You really don't. I'm thinking about Samson. That young boy, you know, remember he was with Eli in the Old Testament. Samson was the first prophet to Israel, and he was sleeping one night and he heard the voice, Samuel, get up, Samuel. And he got up and he went to the priest and he said, did you call me? And the priest said, no, I didn't call you. And he went back to bed and the voice woke him up again, Samuel. And he went back to the priest, did you call me? No, I did not call you. And the third time Eli said, Samuel, go back and ask God, what have I to do? And that's when God showed Samuel the wickedness that was in the priesthood. And so obeying God's voice can lead you to your destiny and to your assignment here on earth. Wow. That's wow. That's awesome. Joseph, you know, there's many people in the Bible that obeyed and disobeyed. You can read all about the kings, and I always loved it. It always mentioned their mothers. If you were a good king, they mentioned your mother. If you were an evil king, that wasn't mentioned. So mothers, when we raise up godly children in the way they should go, then anyway, our names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. That's a great eternal inheritance to have. So, hearing the voice of God is not new. There's nothing new under the sun with God. You know, I heard that he's the great I am. He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And he knows everything about our lives, today, yesterday, and tomorrow. And so, as the great I am, we want to, he said he'll give us his mysteries. And he'll tell us his mysteries here on the earth. I believe he's the creator of everything on the earth, and everything we see on the earth, everything we see was created by him for the good of mankind. Have we distorted it and messed up some of it? Yes. But God, he's a redeemer. He's a redeemer. So hearing him is a wonderful experience for you. Dreaming, giving you dreams, God gives us dreams, is wonderful. Isaiah the prophet, think about those prophets. They would get a word of correction and have to go talk to the kings. Do you know that's happening today? Do you know that our politicians have prophets going to them often giving them words from the Lord? I know Jonathan Cahn, especially Jonathan Cahn, has done that, and powerful words, powerful, because men are God's powerhouse. They are his army. They're really the voice of God, because they're the head, and they're not beneath him. So think of the goodness of God. Women, our position as queens is to respect, honor, and obey, and love our husbands. That's our job, and our job is to pray for the blessings of the Lord to be upon our husbands. I love you today. Have a great day. God bless.